Hello, church family. We're taking a look at the life of Zwingli, and we're asking ourselves, what can we learn from Zwingli's life in times like these about testing the truth? You know, truth is honorable and it's worthy of the sacrifice we make to obtain it. And we're truth seekers. Like, people just want to know what's going on. They want the truth. In many ways, sometimes we want to hide our heads in the sand, but we kind of, in some ways, we want to know the truth. There's a lot of voices out there that are trying to use that desire and fill it with falsehood. I mean, definitely, out there in the media, there's a ton of different voices. They can't all be right, obviously. But very much spiritually, there's a lot of different voices out there about what's important. And I think that the real gospel, hey, will the real gospel stand up? When the real gospel truth stands up, it will have certain qualities to it. And I think it's important that we ask ourselves, do we have these qualities? Is the gospel truth doing the work it should in our lives? Let me just say this. Truth is like money. The more you have of it, the more you can do, the more impact you have, the more respected you are, the more it can be used to benefit yourself, or it can be used to bless others. Sometimes when you have an argument with someone and the truth is on your side, like you have your facts, you have to admit, it's gratifying to be right. It's gratifying to win the argument. I mean, not everybody's an argumentative person, but we all know, for the most part, we all have those moments, some of us way more than others, that we want to be right. And when we share the truth, it has a very myopic, narrow purpose for us. It's about us. It's about feeling good. It's about feeling right. And I really think that if in these last days, if we're going to make an impact for truth, we really should scrub our hearts of all dangerous motivations for the truth. Just because you have truth doesn't mean that your motivations for sharing it are clean and pure. I think if we look at the life of Zwingli, we're going to find that there's a number of things that he had that show us that he had the real deal. So let's look at him. Ulrich Zwingli became a priest. He started studying the Bible, realized salvation was by grace, started teaching it. And of course, when you teach salvation by grace, you are rejecting salvation by relics and pilgrimages. And he started teaching in the town of Zurich this. And well, they had some relics and people made pilgrimages to Zurich, and that was part of the income that the church had. And when he started preaching this, people stopped coming and they lost income. That's a sign of gospel truth. The real gospel will make the preacher of it, the witnesses of it, more desirous of sharing the truth than of monetary gain. If someone's willing to sacrifice for the gospel at even great loss to themselves, like the Apostle Paul, that's a sign that the gospel done its rightful work. It's the real deal. The other thing I love about Zwingli is the truth did not make him arrogant and mean to people, his enemies and his flock. So there's this quote in here where people asked him about his enemies who resorted to insolence and threats and insults. And he said this in response: if we desire to gain over the wicked to Jesus Christ, we must shut our eyes against many things. That's pretty cool. Like, he's saying, hey, I'm going to love my enemies because I want my enemies in heaven. Like, I want them to know the gospel of Jesus Christ. So I'm going to shut my eyes. I'm not going to look and obsess about the things they're doing to me, because there's something more important than how I'm treated. It's the gospel of Jesus Christ. Hey, there's evidence that the gospel has done its work. The truth has done its work. And then with his own people, It says here that as his church began overflowing with crowds that came to listen to him, and little by little, as they could bear it, he opened the truth to his hearers. He was careful not to introduce at first points which would startle them and create prejudice. His work was to win their hearts to the teachings of Christ, to soften them by love, and keep before them his example. And I just love that, because sometimes people who claim truth, they are more impressed with their own quick acceptance and how far along they are, that when they share it with others, they kind of fire hose them, like those fire hydrants, they pour on the water, and the firemen, they're struggling to hold this because it's coming out with so much volume and force. And there's some people, when they start telling you about what they've learned, sometimes they're just excited, but sometimes they love to hear the sound of their own voice. And whereas Zwingli wasn't there to impress everybody with how much he knew and how far ahead of everyone else he was, but he paced their education with where they were at. That's a sign of someone who cares more about what people are learning than cares about how great and far ahead he is. The other thing about another good sign of the gospel truth is what it does in the face of death and what it does in daily life. So 501 years ago, surprisingly, in 1519, the Great Plague, the Great Death came through, and a lot of people were dying. Zwingli almost died, but a lot of people realized on their deathbed what really mattered. And it wasn't relics, it wasn't their works, it was the salvation by grace. In face of death, does your truth shine brighter? Are the things that you're living for, do they glisten more on your deathbed, or do you realize they're false gold? That they're phonies? It's a good question. And Zwingli's hearers realized as the plague came through and they faced death, that what he was preaching was way more critical to the soul than was what the Catholic Church was teaching. But not only in death did the gospel help them, but also in life. Zwingli was accused of anarchy because he was, questioning the authority of the Catholic Church, which was the foundation for law and order. And his response was, hey, no way. Peace is our habitation in our town. Hey, no quarrels, no hypocrisy, no envy, no strife. Where do these things come from? The unity that we have, but from the Lord and our doctrine, which fills us with fruits of peace and piety. So he says, hey, come to Zurich. There's no anarchy here. Lives are changed. People are living better. There's more peace, there's more harmony, there's more piety, more righteousness. So I think, asking yourself, is the spiritual truth that I'm trying to win other people to, is it something that produces righteousness? Zwingli was asked by the Catholic Church, this is the final story I want to share, it's pretty cool. Zwingli was asked to come do a debate with the Catholic Church leaders, and he couldn't. His friends wouldn't let him go. They were afraid he'd be martyred. So they sent his sidekick, Kalapa, I can never say it. Kalapa Deus. Say that 10 times. Kalapa Deus was sent, and he's this humble guy. He has very very poor clothes on, and he comes and he shows up at his hotel and he's praying in his room, and people start asking. They weren't too sure about Zwingli coming over his group and what they were about. And so they're all analyzing him, and he's humble, and he's got a confidence in the Lord. And then there's the Roman leaders who are glittering with jewels and the finest robes, and they're eating luxuriously with the choicest wines, and they're laughing and they're reveling, and they're just so proud that they're just so much better than these beggars who don't know anything about religion. And in the end, at the end of the 18 days, the judges declared the Roman Catholic Church the winners, predetermined. But in the end, Basil and Burns of Switzerland decided for the Reformation because they looked at the life of Kalapa Deus and they saw his real life was changed by the gospel. And I think that really is, folks. Everybody out there has a version of the end times. Everybody out there has a version of what's really happening behind the scenes and what's this, what's that. And I just think if we're really going to have a voice that stands out above the others for the gospel and for the third angel's message, it's going to have to be accompanied by a life-enhancing, death-defying, people-loving, money-neutralizing behavior and character. And by their fruits you shall know them. And Zwingli tells us that. And I think we want to be like Jesus, who came and shared the truth. It was good news. And we want to be changed by the truth that we share with others. Lord bless you.